Hello everyone, so it's been a long time since the last devlog. Actually, it's been over 2 years, and really not much has happened with the game in that time. I've been focused on exams, I haven't really picked up the project. But a few weeks ago, I decided to give it another go with cleaner code and more thoughtful implementation of features that would scale into a finished Metroidvania more easily. So I'm just going to run through all the changes that I've made so far and give a rough roadmap for my plans for the project. So the first thing I worked on was the player movement, really nailing the feel of the controls, making sure it was all very responsive, adding coyote time, jump buffering, all the features that make platforming feel good to play. The next thing I worked on was something that's always kind of been my Achilles heel when it came to Metroidvania projects, and that is world architecture and scene changing. So this time I created a system that allows for smooth transitions between scenes where the player is taken control of and move between pretty seamlessly with a nice camera fade in between. And it's also fairly expandable and easily readable in the editor. So I'm able to build the world fairly efficiently without having to troll through loads of scene files. I then worked on a map, which was kind of uncharted territory for me, and I ended up going for a fairly simple implementation. This was made easier because I'm using a locked-off camera inspired by Animal Well. And it updates as you move along. There's a sort of fog of war effect, and I'm going to expand it a lot more in the future. When I finish the level design, I'm going to draw proper sprites for the levels and make it look a lot more detailed. The next big obstacle in my way was implementing state machines. Now, this is a code pattern that has always kind of stumped me in the past, but this time I decided to really take it slow and try and learn how to implement it properly. I followed this great tutorial series by Adam C. Eunice, which I would really recommend, and it provided a good architecture that I could build and implement features around. So I implemented this in the player, and that really revolutionized how I'm managing player states in this game, which in the past has again been something that I've really struggled with, sort of expanding the code into an endless chain of Boolean checks and if-else statements. Now, as you can see, everything is organized into separate game objects and scripts, which allows for good state management and things can interrupt each other and play as they should. And then what's great about the system is it also works for the enemies, and it's very modular. As you can see, I have a series of scripts which I can reuse whenever I want to for each enemy, allowing me to sort of build them up in an almost visual scripting style approach, linking together different states to create different behaviors. Once I had enemies, I really wanted to add combat, and again I wanted to be more thoughtful about what I implemented here. So the game is really platforming focused. I want it to be about precision platforming, and the combat I really want to be about positioning and really platforming in itself. So all of the attacks I've implemented have a real focus on movement. The base slash involves managing knockback to make sure that your spacing from the enemy is good so you don't take damage. I've then added a stomp inspired by Shovel Knight, which sends the player flying, and this allows it to act both as an offensive and a platforming tool, which is very useful. And the third attack that I've implemented is the grab, and this is a sort of dodge roll type mechanic, but it locks you onto the enemy and moves you to the same space away from them each time, so it's fairly predictable. And also, if you use the up key while performing this attack, you can sort of springboard off the enemies, which is again helpful for making the combat more position focused. I then implemented all of the usual things like player health and a death state, which allows you to respawn. Again, it's all of these things that were really helped along by the state machine system, which ensured that my states were cleanly organized and didn't overlap each other too much. And that leads me into the rough roadmap for the project. So the next thing I want to add are respawn anchors, which is an idea that I have to make the game more platforming focused, and I'll talk about that in the next devlog. From then on, it's really implementing all the sort of standard stuff like menus, saving, to make sure that it works as a full experience. I'm then gonna work on polish. As you can see at the moment, it's almost at a prototype level. The art itself, I'm sort of undecided on. I could go for a more hand-drawn style, that's sort of in the back of my mind, but at the same time, this art style I think looks fairly reasonable and is quite easily expandable, so I'm kind of on the fence about that. But I want to add audio systems and foliage and implement a full test area. Once I have all of those mechanics sketched out, then I'd like to move into some kind of alpha testing phase, maybe in my Discord, which you can join in the description. At that point, it would be about honing these mechanics, working out bugs, and then expanding everything into a full-sized map. So yeah, sorry for the lack of updates. I hope you found this one interesting, and I hope you like the direction that the game is going in. I hope this was helpful if you're working on a Metroidvania of your own, in terms of how I've solved some of these common problems that come up in making this kind of game. And I'll see you in the next devlog.